Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, we have one big question to ask this morning, and it could take a while to answer. Is it a bad thing that we sit here on the last day of April and not have a clue on who the Saints quarterback will be? Is it a bad thing that there are so many differing opinions across the NFL universe on what kind of draft the Saints had? Another question. Derek Carr finally verified to the world he indeed has a shoulder injury. Why did it take so long? Why did he do it in church? And why is he getting every single ounce of blame for this situation? I know I asked that Monday, but I'm asking it again. If the two sides mend fences, can you ever forgive him? In other words, where would the Saints have to go for you to cheer a play that Carr did well? You can never have enough Carr haters in the world. So Matt Moscona will join us today as we also talk about the success the LSU Tigers have had in the portal thus far. Will it add up to victories? It is better, right? And does Kelly have to save his job? Think about that for a minute. Does Ryan Kelly have to save his job? We will definitely talk about that. We've also got Gabe and Man versus Machine. And I end today with a look back to 10 years ago when the Saints made at least one head-scratching pick in the first round. I know you're all shocked by this. And I looked about 20 years younger. You can't wait? Me neither. Roll 'em, spinach boy.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Feeling better about the draft yet? Oh, yeah. It's all peachy keen now, baby. Everything is all sunshine and roses. That's what we're going to be like on this show. Maybe it's only me who didn't like the draft. I don't know. I'm getting some feedback. Eric Asher Monday afternoon, I go on his show every Monday afternoon at 4:30, and he was giving me a little grief. I think he loved the draft. Well, I don't say loved. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. But he definitely liked it more than I did, okay? Someone else was asking me, like, you didn't give any grades. Yeah, I didn't give any grades because I don't like grades, and I think it was pretty clear to see what I thought about him. I have some other emails and some other correspondence that I'm going to get to in a little bit. I had probably as much email / comments / correspondence about this past show Monday than maybe not more than any other, but it was definitely up there in the top 10. We're also going to see what Garland Gillen thinks. I'll be on the final bet tomorrow. We're actually taping it this afternoon because we both had some stuff going on tomorrow. Last final bet, he told me, last final bet that will ever be in the old studio. They're moving down the street. They're moving, oddly enough, they're moving right next to where the Times-Picayune was, where I spent the first 20 whatever years of my career going to the office every day. They're going to be right next to that. It's now, if you're not from New Orleans, it's been a while, or you used to live here or whatever. Where the Times-Picayune was on Howard Avenue, which is right off the interstate, is now called 504 FORE, and it's like what do you call it? The damn, I don't know, brain fart. See when you get old, the golf place. You know what I'm talking about. So anyway, WVUE is right next to where the Times-Picayune, literally across the street. There's a little overpass right there, right next to it. So that's where they're moving to. Last show in the old studios. We'll talk about that. I'll see if Garland agrees with me that I didn't love the draft. It just didn't. I mean, I'm being straight up. I didn't like the Shough pick. Y'all know that. I've been through that. Top golf. Thank you, UBN. Yeah. See what happens when you get old? You forget about that stuff. That's what 504 is. In fact, I got to be honest. From what I've seen, I haven't been there yet, but driving past it multiple times, especially on the interstate, giving them a free shout out. Man, I need to reach out to them. Maybe they can be a sponsor, but it looks nicer than Top Golf even. We'll see. Maybe we'll go out there. Anyway, we'll see what Garland Gillen has to say. We're going to see what y'all have to say. Matt Moscona is on the show. We'll hear more of what y'all have to say. And Matt Moscona here on Dattitude, episode number 368, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Wednesday, April the 30th, 2025. The final show of April. 1/3 of the year is gone. What the hell is going on? It ain't just because I'm getting older. Whatever we're drinking, eating, it's making the time go by faster. Because even my little 9-year-old says, Daddy, this year has gone by so fast. I mean, a 9-year-old saying that. It has flown by. We are 1/3 of the way through the year. Maybe the more chaotic things are, because look, I'm not going to get into it all, but besides the sports world, just the world in general, without sports involved, has been chaotic. I think we all can agree to that. And it has been crazy. And maybe so we had snow in January. It seems like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, 1/3 of the year is gone. One thing that is still the same is I'm Jim Derry, 34.5 years. I'm getting close to where I'm going to say 35 years pretty soon in the New Orleans sports media scene. I thank you for being a part of the ever-growing Dattitude family. We are almost to a milestone on our YouTube page as I try to get y'all to migrate from Facebook to YouTube. I'm not begging, but I'm asking politely. If you've not yet subscribed to our Dattitude page, please do so. It would be very helpful. Give us the like, the thumbs up. I don't know why it helps. They say it does. I don't know who they is. We're still looking for they. Maybe we'll have they on as a guest on the show. To ever find out who they is, they will be a guest in the show. You can get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. And as I say before every show, at Jim Derry, at JDerry, theadvocate.com. All right, let's get to a couple of comments before we get to the actual show. A bunch of y'all saying Top Golf. I did not have my comment stream open when I was asking. I guess I should have. Rocky, good morning. Rocky says he's calling for Carr, Shough, Rat in that order for at least this season. And Hainer, bye-bye. I think we can all agree that no matter what, there's a reason why there are 3 quarterbacks in that title slide. In case you missed it. I don't know how you missed it, but there it is. There are only 3 quarterbacks in that title slide. I don't think anyone thinks that, sorry, Ben DiNucci. There's another news item for you this morning. Ben DiNucci, no longer a New Orleans Saint. How long before Jake Hainer is no longer New Orleans Saint? And I think he'll make it through into training camp. But my guess is they'll let him go early in camp. You're not going to want to keep him around and not give him a chance to be somewhere else, right? We'll see. All right, what else is on today's show? I'm calling this a mess. It's a giant mess. Okay, we're going to get into more comments. It's a giant mess. We don't know who the heck the Saints quarterback is right now. We really don't know. It could be any one of the 3. I don't think anyone would be shocked. Now, I would be shocked if it's Rattler, but I know a lot of you wouldn't be shocked. Everything I'm reading across the stratosphere, the social media world, is that people are automatically just dismissing Carr. I keep telling you, am I the only one who thinks Carr is going to be the starting quarterback? I mean, am I the only person in the media who thinks that Carr is going to be the starting quarterback? I know a lot of you do. We've seen it. I've already seen it in a comment this morning. I've got emails that say people think that it's going to be Carr. But I think I'm the only person in the media, not social media. I'm the only person in the media, I think, that believes Carr is going to be the starting quarterback. Gabe says he thinks the odds tell us it isn't likely. I think the odds don't have a clue. I don't think the odds know anything. It's kind of like, if you go back and remember, we told you about this, a week before the draft? Not even a week before the draft. It was the Friday before the draft. Remember the odds for quarterback? The Saints were going to draft the quarterback in the first round. Remember what they were? You remember? They were minus 110. I think they got even lower than that. I think they got one point they were minus 125. In fact, some places I'm almost positive they were that. But quickly they changed. When people realized the Saints were not going to draft the quarterback in the first round, they were not going to draft Jackson Dart with the 9th pick. They were not going to draft Shedeur Sanders with the 9th pick. No one was. And they changed. I don't think anyone knows. We're going to get to odds portions of all that. Charles Mangus. Good morning. ESPN has the Saints the last ranked team in the NFL. Who cares? Odds win the Super Bowl has them last $10 bet. You get $2,500 and they win the Super Bowl. Damn, they really suck. And they do suck. But They are, and I had to go look this up before the show. They are last in the Super Bowl, at least on DraftKings, and I'm guessing by what Charles says on ESPN. They're now plus 2,500. The reason why I looked that up is because we always talk about that when I go in the Final Bet show. So it's one of the things I look up on whatever morning I'm going to go on there. They were plus 12,500. Did I say plus 2,500? I meant to say plus 25,000. They were plus 12,500 before the draft. They have doubled now. Because, as Gabe was pointing out, his point is that the odds makers either don't know or, look, it's just like the real markets. The odds markets and the real markets are very similar. No one likes instability, okay? No one likes when there's not an answer to something. And there's no answer right now. No one knows. I can sit here and tell you what I think is going to happen. Other members of the Fanboy podcast can tell you what they think is going to happen. And they'll present it as fact, by the way, a lot of times. And which almost always turns out to be at least partly incorrect. That's why you'll never hear. If I present something as fact, it's because it's been verified. And that doesn't happen. I'm not going to sit here and present you with something as fact. I will tell you, this is what I think. Dylan Smith, good morning, Dattitude family. Mark Gapsky, good morning. Who dat? Would like to see the Saints sign another receiver for Shough. Maybe Keenan Allen or Tyler Boyd. Oh, you mean a real receiver, not the undrafted free agents that they've been signing. I hear you. Chad Gage. Dattitians? That's a reach. I think the leader in the clubhouse right now, Chad, the one I like the most, and I don't know if Kyle Sherman is here this morning, but Dattitudinals, I think, is my favorite. Might not be that bad after watching some of his games this year. I don't know. We'll see. Earl's picks. Preach. I always do. Yep. Scone's coming on in a little bit. David Bordelon. Good morning. Tony Godot. He liked our draft. Thinks Jeff Ireland and Scouts did a good job. You're not the only one, Tony. A lot of people think that. A lot of people like this draft. I don't. Again, I'm not going to give it a grade because I think grades are stupid, and giving a grade to something it's incomplete, right? No matter what you think of the draft, no matter the play, if you like every single player, okay, or you hate every single player, you can't sit here and give it an A or give it an F. I've done it in the past and realized that Scott Van Pelt was right. Giving grades of a draft a day or a week or a month after is kind of silly. It's almost as silly as mock drafts. You're probably not going to be right. Gabe says, they're certainly not the worst. The Saints aren't the worst team with, you mean Carr quarterback, right? If Carr is the quarterback, is that what you mean? Yeah. I mean, but here's my point. Okay. I'm going to go back. I'm going to show this comment again. Tony says he liked the draft. He thinks Jeff Ireland Scott did a good job. Okay, great. Then you go to Dwayne Brown, who says D-. Just goes to show you that none of these grades matter. I mean, what I think, this is all about entertainment and us having a conversation. And like I said, if you were sitting here on my couch in the office here, we were watching TV and just BSing. Same thing. That's what we do here in the show. We talk to one another. Sometimes I have guests and I don't show enough. I'd like to show more comments than I do. But sometimes I don't have time to either. We're just going to get into Saints here. Who am I kidding? Last word today, by the way, is, let me go back real quick. We have Man versus Machine. Gabe's coming on, and Gabe's going to talk about more than Man versus Machine. He's going to have his thoughts of the day. Matt Moscona talking on, he won't, of course I got to ask him about Derek Carr because I know he does not like Derek Carr. So that's the first button I'm going to press. And then LSU rolled in the portal. We talked about that. And then the last word today, as I said in the pregame on the open, 10 years ago today, I got a picture to show you later. Make sure you stick around for the last word. It is, we go back to 2015. I'll give you a little spoiler alert, but It is, I think it's 2 times ago. The Saints had 2 first-round picks in 2022. And the Saints, the time before that, the last time the Saints had 2 first-round picks, I believe, was 2015. I know it was the first time we ever did a live draft show. It was well before where we are now and all the technology that we have now. We did one anyway. But I have a screenshot. I'm not going to show you video. There is video out there. If you really want to see it, I'll give you a link. You can ask me and I'll give you a link of highlights from that show. But it's a picture of me and Jim Rapier, who has been my longtime color analyst partner on VSN. We worked together at Times Picayune back then. But from back in the days when we were at One Canal Place and owned by a completely different corporation, it was 10 years ago today, but I look about 20 years younger to show how y'all have aged me. I didn't even have a beard. One of the few times in the last 30 years I didn't have a beard. I don't know why. Every now and then I shave it off just for the hell of it. It's been a while this time. I haven't shaved it off. I feel weird without it. So anyway, I'll show that later. You got to stick around at the end of the show to see it. That is coming up in the last word. And I will tell you who was in that draft 10 years ago. Don't cheat. Don't go look it up. You might know already, but don't go look it up. Don't cheat. Some other comments about this draft before we get to the beef of the show. UBN says he's just here. He's just here to hear Matt yell at me. I don't think Matt's going to yell at me. Matt and I have agreed to disagree. Phil Mariandi, good morning. People tell me Top Golf. Brian Steve, good morning. Apathy, good morning. Maybe don't treat your quarterback situation like it's a national security secret. We can agree on that one. And not put a statement out the day the story leaked about the injury, allowing all this toxicity to run rampant. Amen, Apathy. I couldn't agree more. Both parties, and that is the meat of the first 10, 15 minutes of my monologue. Okay. I don't have a prepared monologue. It's not a speech. It's not a Derry's dime. It's something you and I are going to talk about. You, me, and everybody else that's watching with us. Before we get to Gabe. And then, by the way, Matt is scheduled to come on at noon, in case you were interested. Matt's got everybody, look, Matt Moscona might be the busiest media member in Louisiana, and I'm not exaggerating. I don't know what number Morning Scone was this morning, but he has done Morning Scone for somewhere like 7.5 years in a row without missing one. That's not going to happen. I'm telling you right now, Dattitude will not have. Maybe if we tried to see if we could do 100 in a row, maybe we could do that. That would be really hard to do. But I doubt it. Anyway, Earl's Pick says he was okay with the draft. The only issue is quarterback at 40. You think they could have got him at 70. I know they could have got him at 70. Again, if you missed Monday's show, that's what I had more of a problem with Shough than anything. I didn't really particularly care for Shough. But the bigger problem was, even if you like Shough, reaching for him at 40, I thought was insane. That's the biggest problem I hate with everything. All right, we got more comments coming up. I see plenty of them in the queue, including lots of people we haven't got to yet. I'm going to get to them in just a minute. But first, before we get to the rest of the show, let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can help you figure out what that business is worth. If that's you or someone you know, it's time to reach out to you know who. Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. From there, you'll be well informed and begin to make the decision on if you decide to proceed or if you want to proceed. Also, if you proceed, they will offer you a free exam on your throwing shoulder to make sure you have no doubts about where you stand heading into training camp. Oh, yeah, I made that up. They don't give you a free MRI, but you'll have plenty enough money on your own to go get your own damn MRI and figure out if your throwing shoulder is good enough or not. The truth is, we'll have more on Evangeline later in the show. In the meantime, you check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, I got some other comments. I know I got comments in the queue, but I had some other comments to share. Here's my favorite. from Monday's show after we went off the air. Someone said, quote, tune into my podcast to say, I don't know, for 2 hours. Now, I've said a lot of stuff on 368 episodes of this show, but never do I say nothing. I may bramble on, but I don't think you're ever going to have to worry about whether I'm going to give you an opinion or not. Dumbass. Candidate for Dumbass of the Week, Gabe. Put that one in the books. I did not give you his username. We're still waiting to start that segment. Dumbass of the Week. All right. My friend Joe Bowie commented, and I got to spell it out because we don't use this word, about the newest Saints quarterback. He said, F-O-U-G-H, Shough. F-O-U-G-H. I always wondered about the Shough. How do you get Shough out of S? I mean, Shough. I mean, if you wanted to if you change the CH to C, you get cough, right? Shouldn't it be Shough? Then it'd be Foff, Shough. Whatever. You know what I mean. F-O. I guess that means he's not happy. Gerard Simino, who is often here with us live, I don't see him here today, but he emailed me to say, whoever is not telling the truth did a disservice to our team. I hope the truth comes out soon and find out who hurt this team. I, like me, hopes Carr is back healthy and ready to play. That gives the Saints a shot at a better season. Like I say, quote, it makes sense. But if we find out Carr is the one who's not telling the truth, I hope he rots in hell. I think Carr is telling the truth. Oh, here's Gabe telling me about Shough real quick. Shough is the Americanized version. Did you Google this or you just know this? You know this? Okay, Google. I'm like, you're a whack job if you know this. It says Shough is the Americanized version of the German name S-C-H-U-C-H. That's Shough. I'm just kidding. I get it. All right. We're spending way too much time on Shough's name. I pronounced it wrong, by the way, until about 3 weeks ago. I had to have one of the, it might have been Joseph Long who corrected me, by the way, who has a comment here. I remember everyone who hated Peyton's Bo Nix pick. Me, I hated it. They all ate crow. Okay, let me finish the comment first. If you get your franchise quarterback, that's a big piece of the puzzle. Taking him at 40 versus 71 won't matter if he hits. All right, 2 points. Are we wrong about Bo Nix if we didn't like the pick? Maybe. Maybe. The jury's still out. You would only have one rookie season of average play because, honestly, it was average play. Bo Nix didn't do he did nothing special last year. He was a fine, average to below average quarterback. Would you put him in the top 16? I absolutely would not. Okay. So I ain't eating crow on Bo Nix. Okay. He did better than I thought he would, but I thought he would be crap. He's only a little bit better than crap right now. So all this love for Bo Nix, I don't get it because he still hasn't proven to me that he's going to be this great quarterback. Sure, he was accurate, but he threw a bunch of dump offs. What was his? I don't know. And I don't even know this. I'm completely guessing when I say this, Gabe. If you want to look it up, great. I would be willing to bet that his average yardage per completion has got to be towards the bottom of the league. If there's a way to find that out, I don't even know. So that's part one. I'm not saying I'm right about thinking he'll stink, but I'm also not saying that I'm definitely wrong either. The jury's still out on Bo Nix, and I still thought he got picked way too high. Now, as for Shough at 40, taking him at 40 versus 71 won't matter. What planet are you living on? Just because some people might not remember later on if Shough turns out to be good, that doesn't mean that it was the right thing to do to take him at 40. If you could have him at 71, and I'd say there is a better than great chance he would have still been available at 71. You can look at it by what was taken. And I don't know how many times to say this. Who needed a quarterback at them? Really no one. So even if he was high on like 5 teams draft boards, which I think that's going out on a limb, on a really long limb. And if you believe that, even we talked about this the other day, there were ways to do it without using the 40th pick to take Shough. If you really wanted him and really thought he wasn't going to be there, then package your 2 third-rounders together. Take something you need more at 40, like a cornerback, like a wide receiver, like a running back, any of those 3 things that you needed more than a quarterback. Because I don't know how else to tell you. The quarterback of the future, I could be wrong. If Kellen Moore thinks he's the quarterback of the future, great. But there are only a few teams in the NFL who actually think that anybody's quarterback of the future was in this draft. Is somebody going to be wrong? Absolutely. And could I be wrong? Sure. But that's why I have a show, to give you my opinion. I'm fine with Kellen Moore if that's the quarterback he wants. But you remember when Mickey Loomis said we're not going to reach for picks out of desperation? Well, they lied. Like they lie about a lot of stuff. Because there's no question that Tyler Shough, the pick at 40, not picking him, not taking Tyler Shough. Fine, you take Tyler Shough, you take him. I don't like him. Who cares? But the pick at number 40 shows desperation. So, yes, taking him at 40 versus 71 won't matter if he hits. That's not true. It will always matter. Here we go. Bo Nix. 6.7 yards average per completion. And if you're wondering where that is ranking-wise, 29th in the league. I had no idea. I didn't look this up. I've never looked this up. I did it by the eye test. It's behind Mason Rudolph, Aaron Rodgers, and just ahead of Gardner Minshew. Thank you, Gabe. Behind Anthony Richardson and Justin Fields. So, I don't agree. Look, Joseph, I respect the reason why I show the comments with people that I don't agree with is because I respect opinions. I'm glad that you feel good enough to share them on the show. I want everyone to share their opinions in the show. But I'm telling you why I don't agree with your opinions and why you're not the only one that has those opinions, by the way. I've seen that a lot. David Bordelon says he's feeling good about the draft. He's keeping it positive, brother. UBN says he can't believe they cut Ben DiNucci. Will Ben DiNucci get another job? That's a question. Phil Mariani says Carr will be the starting quarterback. I don't see how he's not, honestly. I'm going to tell you right now. The only way Carr isn't the starting quarterback is if Carr doesn't want to be the starting quarterback. This is why I think that it makes no sense for the media people to just be jumping on. They're jumping on it all kinds of different ways than me. Not only are they just pushing Carr aside and assuming he's not going to be here, just by the way, like they assumed that he wouldn't restructure his contract. Remember a couple months ago when they were just assuming that the deal wouldn't be restructured and they were moving on. Who will the Saints draft? Blah, blah, blah. Well, not only are they doing that, but they're just assuming that Rattler is ahead of Shough. Why would anyone assume that? If Derek Carr doesn't play, which I think is unlikely, I think he's going to come back and start. But if he doesn't play, why would Spencer Rattler be ahead of Shough? He's not going to be ahead of Shough. You don't draft a quarterback, going back to your point about taking him at 40 versus 71. They take him at 40. Why? Because they think he's going to come in and have a chance to be the starting quarterback or at least be the quarterback of the future. And Carr is the bridge. Shough comes in ahead of Rattler. There's a lot of things I wouldn't be shocked about. I wouldn't be shocked if Carr doesn't come back, but I would be shocked. I mean, shocked. I'd be shocked if Shough doesn't start the mini camp and preseason as number 2 over Rattler, or number 1 if Carr's not here. Robert Tujak says Carr needs to be the starter. Carr needs to be started. You can get a job next year somewhere else. You mean in 2026? Yeah. I'm still not convinced he won't be here in 2026. Boy, that really piss him off. UBN says if Carr's a starter, I may go to game 1 just to hear the boos. I'm normally the only one in there booing. You don't even boo. You just sit there. David Nola, 985 says, I think you could see Carr, Shough, Hayner with Rattler traded. Rattler, you're not going to trade Rattler because no one's going to give you anything for Rattler. If Carr's out, it's Shough, Rattler, and Hayner's third on and off the roster. Rattler's not going to get traded unless you're just like, you might get a 6th or 7th round pick for him. I doubt it. Who in the NFL who didn't draft Spencer Rattler before and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm telling you reality. I'm telling you common sense. Okay. I'm telling you what common sense looks like as far as trading Spencer Rattler. Who in the NFL who didn't think he was good enough to play for the team before the whatever pick of the 5th round the Saints took him at would give you more than a 5th round pick for Spencer Rattler today? No one. They wouldn't even give you a 5th round pick because he's already shown he went 0-6 last year. They're not, you can't trade him. But I don't think they would cut him either. I'd be surprised if September the 7th, Rattler isn't on this roster one way or another. He may be the 3rd quarterback and inactive like he was a lot of days last year. But it's Hayner, the one that's going to be gone. Even if Carr comes back, why would you get rid of Rattler and keep Hayner? That doesn't make any sense. Dylan, I don't see why they'd get a quarterback at Tyler's age to sit a year or two. Sounds like they got someone that would be ready to start, maybe just in case Carr's out for the season. I mean, we've been through the whole age thing. Yeah, I mean, you're a year, yes, you sit. That's fine. 2 years, probably not. But I don't think they know. I don't think anyone knows right now. That's the problem. That's what this show is all about. The title slide, the title in our slide here says, who is the number one quarterback? Does the team know? My guess is no, they don't. They don't know. Joseph comes back. We're rebuilding, so act like it. It's okay to rebuild. What does that have to do with anything that you said before? I'm not disagreeing they're not in rebuilding mode, but you can still try to win when you're in rebuilding mode. Act like it. What does act like it mean? Lose on purpose? Start a quarterback. You're spending $90 million in cap space on a quarterback, so you should just let him go rot in purgatory? No. You want to talk about quarterbacks who you're not going to waste a pick on, sit a quarterback at age 26 when the season starts. Well, you're also a 33-year-old, a 34-year-old quarterback is not going to want to waste a year of his career either. He's not going to want to sit there and do nothing. It's all a sham, dude. 34-year-old quarterback knows he's only got X amount of time left. He doesn't want to use it, wasting it, sitting at home in California watching football. It's not going to happen. And no one's going to trade for him. The Saints aren't going to trade him because they're not going to get anything for him, and they're not going to pay his salary so he can start with someone else. Doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, it isn't true. Ryan Russell, whose fault is it that they suck? Well, I mean, you answered. What kind of question is that? I mean, unless it's acts of God, I mean, whose fault is it? It's their fault, of course. Saints' fault. That's part of my question. Why is Derek Carr getting every ounce of grief? Go, there we go, taking up for Derek Carr again. No, I'm not. I'm asking a simple question. I'm not taking up for Derek Carr. I've already told you. I thought that the way he's handled this has been horrible. He should have said 2 months ago, I got a shoulder problem. I've told the Saints about it. They know everything there is to know. He should have come out and beat the Saints to the punch. When they said we're redoing your contract, if he didn't want his contract redone, he should have said the next day, they redid my contract, whatever it is. Endear yourself to fans, at least present the fans your side of the story. I'm not taking up for Derek Carr. He handled this awfully. But at the same time, why do the Saints I don't see anybody giving the Saints grief for this. It's at least, at the bare minimum, 50-50. They're both at fault the same amount, at the bare minimum. And I actually think the Saints are more at fault. They're trying to make Carr the bad guy. Doesn't make any sense. Lewis Kendall says the odds of probability of something occurring, the odds of afternoon thunder showers in New Orleans are favorable during the summer. The Saints trying to move down in the first and to move up in the second to draft a quarterback. I don't think they try to move up in the second. they haven't come out and actually said this, but we talked about it on Monday, that I do believe that they tried to move up into the first to get Dart, and the Giants beat it in the punch. I mean, read between the lines. We played the Loomis Club, not playing it again. They wanted Dart. They didn't get Dart. So drafting Shough at 40 to me was a panic move. SJ, this is the type of draft that sets up a rebuild. The 2006 and 2017 would have hated now before games were played. I don't know. I think 2017, most people were pretty fired up by 2017. If I remember correctly. You could be right, actually. I'm not telling you you're wrong, but I remember, I don't think people hated the 2017 draft. And the 2006 draft, I really don't remember, to be honest. I'd have to go back. You know, one thing about 2006 that's way different than now is you just didn't have instant. The only media reaction you had in 2006 was people weren't going to Twitter or whatever. I mean, there was Facebook. I wasn't on Facebook yet. There was MySpace, if you remember that. It wasn't nearly as easy to get social media reactions or media just in general. You kind of had to go off of what other TV guys and maybe columnists said. I'd have to go back and look, SJ. I don't know if that's true or not. But 2017, I'm pretty sure 2017, people liked that draft even then. Probably not as much as they do now, or look back and say now. I don't disagree that this is the type of draft that sets up a rebuild to a certain extent. One of the problems I have, if you are rebuilding, though, I would think you would draft to rebuild with positions in mind, right? Like, in other words, positions you need. How do you go through an entire draft not drafting a wide receiver when there's no question that's one of your big needs? That's got to be a top 4 need, right? Maybe top 3. And you don't draft one, and you don't draft running back, which is also way up there, until round 6. Again, I've talked about this. The defensive tackle. I think you need a receiver more than you need a tackle. But my point is, this team drafted like they were 11-6 last year, and they're a couple players away from winning a championship or winning the division championship anyway. They drafted whoever the best player was on their board. That's how you should always draft. I disagree. If you have huge needs, you should draft whatever the best player is at those positions first. Then take flyers on you draft a safety in the 3rd round. You don't need a safety. Tyrann Mathieu might be gone after this year. Well, then go get a safety next year. You need a corner way more than you need a safety. Mal, you're right. 2017, they had Ramczyk and Lattimore. Forgot about 2017. I'm way behind here with comments, so I'm going. Somebody wrote, Mark Stanovich wrote, Shough is Josh Allen 2.0. Get out of here. No, he's not. He didn't run like that at Louisville, and he's too injury prone. I'm trying to catch up here, so I am moving up. Brian Cavett, you are fast approaching your 300th episode with me. You started with episode number 70, and Jeff Duncan's take on the Derby. Interesting you say that, my friend, because Jeff Duncan will be here Friday. We'll talk mostly Saints, but I am going to get his take on the Kentucky Derby. One of us has had a really nice Kentucky Derby the last couple of years. The chances of that happening 3 years in a row are probably slim than none, but we'll see what happens anyway. Just a PSA, I may have to record Jeff Duncan's portion, so you may or may not be able to ask Dunk questions. We'll see how it goes. And in case you're wondering, Matt Moscona is due up here at noon. I'm going to have Gabe on within the next 5 minutes. I'm trying to get to as many of these comments as possible. I'm way behind. I see I'm like 15 minutes behind. I'm sorry. I'm spending too much time talking on each comment. I'll just go through some of them. Mal says Knicks was awful for the first half of the season. He did get better. David says Knicks had one offensive weapon. That doesn't mean anything to me. I like when people say, oh, he's only got, get out of here. Tom Brady, but other than Randy Moss, never had a ton of weapons. And so most people, not me, but most people call him the greatest quarterback who ever played. Can you name 10 receivers who played in the history? And not Tampa Bay. Gabe, you can, but you're a wacko. You don't count. Can you name 10 receivers who played for Tom Brady? No, you can't. Liar. Get out of here. I hate that argument. He never had any. Get out of here. What else we got here? I'm going through again quick. Stephen Gordon says not Spencer Rattler. Let's see where we at here. Chad Gage, our quarterbacks real test their sophomore year when teams learn their tendencies. As CJ Stroud, I still think CJ Stroud's going to be a really good quarterback, but he definitely took a step back. Bryce Young took a step forward, but not until the second half of last year. If you remember correctly, last year even Bryce Young started off awfully. Andy Dalton had to come in, and then Dalton got hurt. They put Bryce Young back in, and he never lost the job again. Ryan Ashe says, Moscona and I talking about my boy Carr should be fire. It's not my boy Carr. Boy, yeah. Whenever you tell like it is, that's your boy if you don't agree with me. John says, finally someone who is realistic about Carr. I'm telling you, I'm the only person who's saying that I'm the only person in media that show me if I'm wrong. I'm not talking about Joe Blow on X who has 400 followers. Show me somebody, and I promise you, I am not doing this just to be different. I've been saying this from before the draft, when I found out about the shoulder, when I didn't believe about the shoulder, whatever. I've been wrong about a lot of things when it comes to all this stuff. I'm not taking up for Derek Carr. I'm telling, I play poker every Monday night. Okay. Y'all, a lot of y'all know this. I was bombarded by quote unquote friends who I play poker with. They're, whatever you want to call them, acquaintances, I guess. Most of them I only see on Monday nights through the years, whatever. That's literally the only time I see them is when I play poker. But they couldn't wait for me to get in, getting all over me because I still think Carr's going to be the quarterback. I'm telling you what I think. I'm not even telling you what I want to happen. What do I want to happen? I want the Saints to win. Okay. We're gonna start shifting towards schedules coming out in 2 weeks. We're gonna start shifting towards over/under win totals as we move along here and get through mini camps. We're gonna kind of change direction. I've already changed the banner to the Saints off season now. We're gonna skip a lot of things. I mean, we're gonna start moving ahead and moving forward and stop talking about whatever. Realistic. We're gonna be realistic on the show. Will Abear, can we just skip 2025? Lord, this is rough. Or is it Ruck? Lord, this is Ruck. No, I'm just being funny. Did you get it? Ruck, Shough. That was a bad dad joke. Lord, this is rough compared to the Breeze glory years. Well, I mean, stop comparing things to Breeze, okay? That's your problem. That's why the 85% of you hate Derek Carr because he's not Drew Brees. I haven't said it in a while, Gabe. Drew Brees is gone, and he's never coming back. Get over it. Oh, boy. Haven't shown a Who Dat Daddy comment today. Here we go. Where you been, my friend? You were a little late. Although this comment is a little over 10 minutes old. Carr doesn't want to be here. Again, saying stuff that we have no idea that's true. Shough will not be the given starter, and good morning. Good morning. I disagree with every single part of that comment. You have no idea. No one has any clue. Okay. Not a single person except the man himself knows whether Derek Carr wants to be here or not. Well, he showed this, and this. He ain't showed nothing. That's part of the problem I have with him, is he hasn't showed us a damn thing. And the second part of your comment, there is almost, I'm not going to say 0.0. I'll even raise it from the 0.1 I gave the other day. Let's be realistic. I'll say 5%. There's a 5% chance that Shough, if Carr's not playing, if Carr's not here, that Shough's not the starter. You don't draft a guy at 4. You're not going to start the 5th round guy you got last year under a different coach who went 0-6 as the starter and make him your starting quarterback. It's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. It's not going to be Hainer either, John. Going through again. I gotta get moving here. Hey, I've been called worse than Buddy Diliberto. SJ, way worse. Way worse. Dylan Smith says, no one knows. Tyler Shough is the backup plan if Carr's out. Okay. Here's one I haven't called his name. Rip LaBeouf says a lot of things don't make sense and are true. If you say so. I haven't. Very rarely. I don't remember the last time we talked about anything that doesn't make sense that ended up being true. Anyway. Last comment before I get to Gabe. Come on, Jim, says Earl's Picks. He definitely doesn't want to be here the way the Saints fans treat him. Nobody wants to be where they're hated. Money, my friend. Some people just don't give a damn. They want money. They got money. He's getting money. And you know what cures being hated? Winning. Oh, they'll never win with Carr. You don't know Jack. I don't mean you, Earl. I mean everyone who hates Derek Carr. You don't know Jack. Winning cures everything. One of my questions that I never even got to ask. What would he need to do? And we'll get into this later after. We're going to get into this after Matt Moscona comes on. But what would Carr need to do for you? That's going to be my question at 12:25 or so when Matt goes up the air. What would Derek Carr need to do for you to at least not boo? You're always going to hate him. The Saints Derek Carr could go 17-0. I'm not exaggerating. Derek Carr could go 17-0 next year. The Saints win the Super Bowl, and about at least 50% of y'all who hate him now will still hate him, not give him any credit, and just not boo him. But what would it take for the common sense people? That's going to be the question for later. All right. Whatever. Gabe, you don't care one way or the other. Would you boo? Would you just sit in the dome and laugh if you were just sitting in the dome on that day one and Derek Carr came in and got the loudest boos in the history of boos?
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't be in the dome day one.
What if they were playing the Texans?
I would embrace the boos for Carr because that's better for the Texans.
I'm just not with the whole thing of everybody knows Carr doesn't want to. You don't know shit. You just don't know. You think you know. It's like Jim Morris used to say, you think you know, but you really don't know, and you never will. Nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. First of all.
So here's the thing. I'm big on verbiage, as we all know. There's something that we know. Saying that Carr doesn't want to be here is just not true. He's not come out and said it one way or another. However, you can make an educated guess that he does not want to be in New Orleans anymore, based on reports that he's wanted out. And quite frankly, like everyone said, now if he hadn't acknowledged it, it would be one thing. But he's been vocal. He has acknowledged the hate that he gets online. He might be ignorant on a lot of things. He's not ignorant on that. So yeah, sure. I think you can make an educated guess based on those two things that he doesn't want to be there.
Here's a comment I want to show because I need to clear up. Who that daddy? He's got his money already. He doesn't have all of it. Because let me tell you something. If you don't think they don't want to bring him back so they can redo his contract again next year and so they don't have to eat $70 million, then you cray. And to do that, they have to give him more money. Just telling you. So he doesn't have all his money. I don't know. There you go. Who that daddy says you have common sense. Apparently I don't. All right. What go ahead. You got what is on your mind today?
I wanted to get to common sense. One of Mark's comments earlier was if Drew Brees came back as an assistant coach, we could win it 2-0. Okay. Do we not remember people? Do we just choose to this group especially local Louisianans should know what happens when Drew Brees is on the sideline coaching. Because for those who don't remember, LSU made an absolute fool of Drew Brees and Purdue a few seasons ago.
Yeah, they did.
Here's one.
By the way, Mal, it's not more new money. It's salary cap gymnastics. Yes, they would have to give him more money. I'm telling you, when you restructure a contract, you don't just restructure it. You have to give him. You have to turn part of whatever money. He doesn't have all the money. You are not correct. Okay. Apathy says the Lord himself could cascade down from the heavens, touch the Saints sideline. They still won't win 10 games in 2025. Okay. Well, then you can bet the under. Yeah. You can bet that. You should go put. I'm not advocating betting. This is completely facetious when I say this. You should go put 6 mortgage payments on the under 10.5. You can bet that. And yes,
those odds must be horrible.
I'm sure they're not good because it was. Go ahead.
No, the win total was like 5. It was either 5.5 or 6.5, depending on the book that you looked at.
I looked at it. I'm gonna start putting that on the screen on a regular basis so that people can see this. Regular season wins. Here we go for the New Orleans Saints. As I look at them, New Orleans Saints under 10.5 is minus 2,000, which means you could put $10,000 on it. Go ahead, Apathy. You put $10,000 on it. If the Saints don't win 11 games, you get $500 back. It's like free money, right? If you think it's free money, you should go do it.
It's true. If you are so certain, you can go bet it. Yes, Charles, I know Drew Brees was insignificant in that game.
By the way, just to go show you how much juice these books get, the over 10.5 is only minus 950. So it's good to show you ridiculous.
Plus 950.
Plus 950. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thanks for correcting me. By the way, right now the over 6.5 wins is plus 135. So if you think the Saints going to win 7 games or more, there you go. I think the time, and by the way, I don't think this is getting any lower because if we start finding out that at some point in the near future that Carr is coming back, now is the time to draft, to bet that. Saints Super Bowl odds, as Charles Mangus was saying earlier. Here we go. I'm wrong. No, I'm not. He gets money up front in the form of a bonus, not new money. It is new money. They have to restructure his contract. They're going to give him new money. I promise you. You're wrong. Why would they give him new money? Because they have to do it to restructure his contract. Okay. I'm not an expert, but I know that much. Okay. So I'm not wrong. When I'm wrong, I'll tell you, but this ain't it. You're wrong. Move on. Saints winning the division next year. Let's go, baby. Okay, Errol, you can go bet on that too. I don't even know. Number of that. I've already clicked off of that, but it's got to be like it was 1,200 before the draft. It's got to be 1,500 now. So you bet $100.
I don't think it'd get as high as 1,500.
Now, I'm not showing any more comments from you. You're wrong. Adios. Okay, let's move on. What else do you want to talk about? Because we got to get to man versus machine. Matt's going to be here in about 6-7 minutes.
Talk about anything.
What do you think about?
We'll get in the comments.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna start ignoring some of these numbnuts. Well, that is one thing I always talk about if we're sitting on our couch. I mean, what I didn't say is I don't want to do it like as if I'm 20 years old again. You're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. I don't want to do that. Okay. So
I will. I'll comment on
you're
this
incorrect.
John said if the Saints stay healthy, the class of the South. That is absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. Unequivocally false.
Here he goes. Absolutely. You're using words that I use.
I mean, how can you honestly say that a team with a over/under win total of 6.5 is the class of the South if they stay healthy? I'm not saying they can't win the division. I'm just saying.
Well, I think when he means class of the South, I think what he means is having your starting quarterback there and all the pieces there and your linemen there. Here's
you still can't say that the class of the South haven't won anything with said quarterback.
I guess. I mean,
the Buccaneers have won the division the last couple of years. They are, by definition, the class of the South.
I don't think there is a such thing as a class of the South.
I don't think there's really ever a class of any division.
Elijah Gray says at this point, I don't care who our quarterback is this offseason. It's been a pain. Can we just win, GD? I hear you. That I'm definitely with you on. All right, real quick. I do want to go. I'm gonna go back to this real quick because I think plus 500 to win the South seems low.
I think that's wrong.
That doesn't sound right to me.
No, that sounds like the Falcons odds or something. Let me.
Yeah, I'm trying to look. You can look it up if you want.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, look it up in DraftKings. That's what we usually.
That's what I'm doing.
Brian Cabot restructure is only converting his existing salary to bonus. No new money was added. I understand that.
Division winners, the Saints are plus 1,000.
Hold on, but you're not if you he's not guaranteed. There's plenty of money that's left that's not guaranteed. To restructure again, you have to give him money. Amen. Has anyone seen Carr? Yeah, I saw him in church. You didn't see him in church the other day? All right. I want to get to Man versus Machine because I'm expecting Matt to be in here any minute now. All right. So we're going to, again, coming right back to Saints. I know things are a little out of order here. Again, the last word coming up. You got to see it. It's going to be about the draft 10 years ago. 10 years ago today, April 30th, 2015. Gabe was still in high school. We were
2013. Yeah, I was
2015.
Oh, 2015. Yeah, I was still in high school.
We were doing our first ever live draft show. So
can I hold on? Let me just
go ahead.
Move on real quick since we are kind of moving into a betting segment. Let me give a shameless plug. Mark, we've got this cool little tool where I work, a place called Sportsbook Review. And you can plug in any prop, any future, and you can find the best odds, the easiest way to odd shop. And I guarantee you can, I guarantee because I just looked on DraftKings and they're 10-1. You can find better than 7-1 odds for the Saints to win the South.
10-1. I thought it was higher than that, but 10-1. There you go. So I'm not advocating you go bet it right now. I have to see how minicamp goes. I won't make a prediction on that until we start getting into July, and I'm sure we'll probably disagree.
I don't care who their quarterback is. I would not bet the Saints to win the South.
Okay. Well, if Carr's the quarterback, I would absolutely 100% bet them at 10-1. Real quick,
what a great comment for Matt to come into the green.
Yeah, right. I know. I can't wait. Real quick, Man versus Machine. There we had a tough one on Monday. The Machine now 6-3. Man versus 3-6. Real quick, you got Cade Cunningham under 27.5 points tomorrow night for the Detroit Pistons. What you got there? Why you like that?
He's only cleared this total once in a 5-game series so far. I believe he's gone under that in 5 of the 9 games that they've played this season against the Knicks. He's really taken on more of a creator role for the first 3 quarters. He scored 13 of it. I believe he had 24 points the other day. He had 13 of those points in the fourth. I just think this prop is too high. So that's
well, the Machine, good news. I guess it could be good news. It could be bad news. Machine says, you're wrong, Gabe Henderson. The final call, Cade Cunningham will score over 27.5 points. Expect him to take 20-plus shots and leverage his free throw opportunities, 8 of 12 free throw attempts to push past the threshold in a high-intensity home game. A projected stat line of 28 to 30 points, 8 rebounds and 9 assists feel realistic if he plays 40-plus minutes. Confidence level, moderate, 60 to 65%. There you go.
I definitely agree with those assists and rebound. He's really taken on a bigger role in those departments.
Well,
I like those.
One of y'all is getting a win, and you won't be here Friday, right?
No, I won't be.
All right. Well, we will see you on Monday. I may bring you back later in the show. We'll see.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right. I can't wait for this because I am certain, I am 100% positive there is at least one thing we disagree on, and we're going to get right into it. But first, I want to ask you how you doing, Matt Moscona.
Awesome. Sunshine. I'm going to watch Pearl Jam at Jazz Fest on Saturday.
Wow.
I'm freaking pumped.
I'm jealous. I would like to. I am, and I'm spending my Thursday working. And I'm not. Look, I used to go in the day. I used to go all the time, but I guess it's just not as easy now. I make excuses not to go. I would love to.
I go one day a year. Last year, we saw Foo Fighters, Steve Miller a couple of years ago, Chili Peppers. So I go one day a year. And Pearl Jam is my favorite band of all time. So as soon as I found out Pearl Jam was coming to Jazz Fest, I told my wife, I said, I am gone on May the 3rd. I will not be home. You will not see me, and you're not invited. So I'll see you on Sunday the 4th. Make sure Drew's fine and all that stuff. And if you need something, I'll leave some pizza money on the counter. But you're not going to see me on May the 3rd.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I didn't ask you to come on the show May the 3rd, but
I'm not available. Jim, do you know how many people have asked me to do different events or what, like on just have, because it's the spring, man. There's no football season, so everybody plans everything. And I'm like, no, I'm not available. I will not come to your thing.
Well, I know one thing you will be doing on May 3rd because you do it every day for like the last 7.5 to 8 years. The Morning Scone, Matt Moscona of ESPN Radio, but he has his own podcast every morning. And when I say every morning, I mean every morning. Tell them a little bit about the Morning Scone if they don't already know.
Yeah, so on my personal Facebook and YouTube channel, I do a live stream every morning. And today was episode 2652 consecutively. So I think we just made 7 years. So I've never missed a day, literally never a holiday weekend. I've done it from airports, hotels, my favorite was pre-op before knee surgery.
That's impressive.
Mostly in my office though, but yeah, commitment to it. I feel like Forrest Gump, where he just came this far, might as well keep running. I just ran to this, run to that. I just keep going. So with that, but also do Locked on LSU as well, which is another podcast, which is I think a far more serious entity than the Morning Scone, but I do enjoy our Morning Scone community.
Well, and you have your regulars. We don't always agree with our regulars, but we have fun with them. And I love the fact that, we can't do our own thing. And one thing when I was told about it, and I never told you this before, but a little over a year ago, when they said they wanted to make my podcast my job, my boss told me, he says, one thing I want you to do, I'm not going to tell you to go look at all these podcasts, but I want you to look at how Matt Moscona does his, and I want you to do something similar. I'm like, well, I can tell you right now, I ain't Cal Ripken, and I ain't doing 2,000 something in a row. So we'll see how it goes. But I do love how, Matt, you talk with your regulars on a constant. That's one thing that I did pick up from you, and I think it's important, and that the people know that we care about them. We care what they think, even when we don't agree with them. We care what they think, and that's what's important, I think, in our business.
Yeah, I think media's evolved so much. Like, for example, my 9 to 5 is my radio show After Further Review, and that's not just radio anymore. It's podcast and YouTube and on basically short form, vertical, and everywhere. And a long time ago we went away from doing caller driven radio. That was intentional, but there's plenty of ways people can interact. If it's Twitter, text line, it's just an evolution of the industry. But Jim, I tell people all the time, without the audience, I'm just a guy in a room talking to myself. That's weird.
Right.
So, and it's not pandering, it's true. So, sometimes people come up and it's very flattering when people, want to take a picture, say hello, and that's awesome. And they're like, I don't mean to bother. I'm like, the day that I'm annoyed that someone thinks enough of my show to want to tell me hello or take a pic, bleep me, man. How big of a jerk would you have to be to not appreciate the people who take time out of their day to listen to you or watch you when they have options? So, yeah, man, I'm eternally grateful for everybody that participates.
Well, lastly, before we get into it, and I'm not trying to just blow you up, but I will say this: during Super Bowl week, and we were looking for guests or whatever, and you were super busy. You had a break. I was just coming up to tell you hello. I said, if you wanted to come on, I didn't expect you to because I know how busy you were. You came on the next day. You came on the show, and every time I've asked you, you've always come on the show, and I appreciate that very much.
No, man, I'm happy to do it. I appreciate you thinking to invite me. So now you want to yell at me about something. So yell at me about something.
Well, hold on.
You built me up.
I don't want to yell at
me.
I don't want to yell at you, but I want to have an interesting discussion here. Matt says, let's hear his Carr's rant. Who that daddy is loving on you? Who that daddy says, keep up the Carr rants, please. There are more like that. All right. So let's get into it. Here's my thing with I'm going to start with this when it comes to Derek Carr. Okay. My question of the day is not so much whether he's coming back. I personally think I think there's a better than 50-50 chance that on September 7th, 2025, Derek Carr is still the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints because it's common sense and they're both enjoined in this marriage together. Whether they like it or not, they haven't divorced yet. And until you've divorced, you're both what and what. My question for you, Matt, is why it seems like Derek Carr has taken 96% of the heat and the Saints are taking almost none, when to me, at the bare minimum, they should be 50-50. I mean, I don't like the way Carr has handled this and that he's just come out and just talked about this in church. I mean, why in church? I have no idea. But the Saints they're trying to make him the scapegoat of this whole thing when I think the Saints are as inept about this whole thing as anyone else.
Jim, do you actually listen to my show or watch me?
Yes. Basically spent the last this morning, as a matter of fact.
I have basically spent the last 2 years putting Mickey Loomis in a pile driver.
That's just my lead into Carr, by the way.
That's I agree with you. They're both culpable, but you can't accuse me of not taking the Saints to task. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Mickey Loomis, if he worked for any other organization, would have been fired.
I agree.
You don't miss the playoffs 4 years in a row, essentially obliterate 4 drafts, have such personnel mismanagement whereby you actually draft well, i.e., Trey Hendrickson, Zach Bond, and you let those players get away because you misappropriate your funds. I mean, you committed $100 million to Derek Carr, which was a joke from the beginning, which I said from the beginning, and we can have that conversation. You have the worst salary cap situation in the league by far. He would be fired literally anywhere else except that he's a made man because he backed Grandma Gail when she and Rita were going against each other. So congrats to him. He's got a job now. But you can't tell me, Jim, that like I've given the Saints a pass and only gone after Derek Carr.
Oh, I didn't
My
tell
issues
you
with
would.
Derek Carr are different. And by the way, I didn't want them to restructure Derek Carr last year because the day they signed him, I stood on my pulpit. See what I did there, Derek Carr? Stood on my pulpit. And I said that we have a 9-year sample of what Derek Carr is. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL. He is a starting quarterback, but he's a lower middle tier, upper bottom tier quarterback. He will never win you anything of significance. So if you just want to be in the perpetual 8-9, 9-8, maybe make the playoffs, get bounced in the first round, Derek Carr is your guy. But if you want to try to win a championship, you'll never do it with him. So they should have realized that already. Instead, they keep restructuring his deal, hamstringing them financially even longer. And so I have a problem with that. The way Derek Carr has carried himself as the face of an organization who is making 9 figures, I have a massive problem with that. And if you do, in fact, have a shoulder injury, hey, Jim, I got an idea. Maybe this, I just thought of this today. You tell me if this would make sense. You've done media a long time. You tell me if this would make sense. Maybe we could find a way where the press could have like some type of gathering. Maybe we can call it a conference. And Derek Carr could make a statement, and then maybe people could ask him questions. Like, what do you think about an idea like that? If the starting quarterback has an injury, that maybe he could do something like that to get answers instead of going doing a stupid Carr review video, having the GM actually at a press conference, unwilling to answer anything like he's Marshawn Lynch at the Super Bowl here so he don't get fined. And then when he decides to break his silence is when he's at a freak. What? By the way, what church? I mean, I'm a Catholic, so I don't get it. What church just lets a quarterback on stage? Like, I'm not familiar with that, but it's called The Church, the one in Las Vegas, apparently.
Oh, I never heard of that. I never knew that.
No, it's called The Church Las Vegas is where he was. Shout out, I'd rather you be there than selling drugs. So be at church, do your deal, whatever it is. But the bottom line is, like, that's when you choose to break it. Like, how do you think that's going to go over? It's the lack of self-awareness. Yes, the Saints are inept, but Derek Carr he completely lacks self-awareness in this whole thing. Who wanted the rant? There's your rant.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be on your side for part of this because with Carr, and I've been saying this for the past few weeks. Here's to your point, because there's definitely a point in there that I agree with. To your point, if you're going to start a podcast with your brother, okay, that's getting no views, by the way. I mean, it's got literally. He doesn't have a single podcast yet on his YouTube channel that averages what my show gets on a daily basis this year. And that's saying, and I'm nobody. Okay. So if you're going to try to start a podcast and build it up and you're this multi-million-dollar, don't you think you would want to like have a podcast that all you did was talk about you? It would get millions of views if you talked about your shoulder.
Yeah.
So you're going to do it in church. You would have been much better served to like sit there on your podcast with your brother, who's going to throw you every softball question on the planet, to actually sit there and talk about your shoulder and tell people your side of the story. To me, that would make more sense.
Yeah, that would make more sense. That would make perfect sense. And you're allowed to do it in the year of our Lord 2025. But instead, he decided to go about the way that he did, which deserves criticism. Jim, I've always said this about Derek Carr. I don't know him personally. He appears to me to be a good man, husband, father, all that stuff. And that is infinitely more important as we walk this earth than what you do on a football field. So none of this is a personal criticism of Derek Carr, the man, because I don't know him, and he appears to be very good in all those respects. But there are some very clear things where when you live a life in the public eye and you have a job that allows you to generate abundant wealth, a 9-figure salary, and you're pushing back against criticism on social media, brother, like, you make $100 million. I'm sorry that Mr. Saints fan 86 said mean things about you on Twitter, but like that's the thing and then calling Diana Rossini some lady with a podcast, like we don't all know that Diana Rossini is one of the most reputable NFL reporters there is. I mean, no disagreement there, right? I mean, Diana Rossini is awesome.
Oh, I've been talking about Diana Rossini a lot in this podcast the last month or so.
Some lady with a podcast who are you, man? Like
he's a man with a $500,000 Rolls Royce.
Yeah, exactly. And now we all know about it. And he did a really terrible video with his brother about it
man.
Instead of talking about his shoulder, which is the thing that people actually care about.
All right, now here's where I'm going to take up for Derek Carr. All right, so I've been on. I agree with most of what we've been talking about so far.
Okay.
Here's the problem that when they signed him, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm going to tell you what I thought. I thought it was a good signing. I'm still not 100% sure that it couldn't be something good for the Saints, and here's the reason why, man. And look, I have no idea. One thing I don't know is why Carr would ever have chosen the Saints in the first place, because he was just leaving a team that had a horrendous offensive line almost the entire time he was there with the Raiders. Okay. So why would you come to a team whose offensive line was clearly declining? And the Saints at the time they were so stubborn about it. They didn't seem to think they needed to fix it. Okay. Why would you come to this team? That would be my number one question for him.
Well, I got the answer. It's because they were going to make him a starter and pay him $100 million. No other team in the NFL was prepared to make him a starter.
Okay, well, my question is, though, even all that being said, is I'd like to see what could happen with this dude. People keep saying he's nothing but mediocre. He's nothing but mediocre. It's because he's always on his ass, man. He's always being knocked down because he plays for teams that don't have a good offensive line. What could he do? Could he be a winner?
Hey, Jim.
Could he be a winner if he had a good offensive line?
Joe Burrow's knee exploded his rookie year because his offensive line was atrocious.
That's true.
In his second year in the NFL, no, they didn't. They went to 4 wins from 1, and then in the second year, still behind. You can roll your eyes, but when you quadruple your win total, that's significant. And then the next year, they were in the Super Bowl behind the same atrocious offensive line. As a matter of fact, they didn't win the Super Bowl because they couldn't block Aaron Donald on a play where Jamar Chase was wide open streaking toward the end zone, what would have been the game-winning touchdown pass. So great quarterbacks overcome deficiencies on their teams. Derek Carr is not a great quarterback. He has never been a great quarterback. He is an lower mid-tier, upper bottom-tier starter. That's what he is. You have a large enough sample size to know what that is. You can take any quarterback, put him behind a great offensive line, give him a great running game, elite receivers, and they're going to perform above their average. What happened with Drew Brees in 2014, 15, 16, back-to-back 7-9 seasons? Jim, you watch those teams. What is that team's record without Drew Brees?
Oh, I don't disagree with that at all. But when you're talking about
Carr, he elevated his team. Carr doesn't elevate his team.
You can't compare. Well, you can. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can compare to Derek Carr.
That's what we're doing. That's literally what we're doing, Jim.
To Tom Brady if you want. But you're talking about Joe Burrow, who I think we all would agree has an excellent chance to, when he's done, be one of the top 10 quarterbacks who's ever played this game. He's not there yet.
Okay. No. Don't miss the point, though. But that's exactly my point, Jim, is Derek Carr is not one of those guys. So don't have an expectation of him beyond what he is. What he is a mid-tier NFL quarterback that is a better option than Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener or lots of guys in the NFL. But don't expect Derek Carr to elevate you to a point where you're going to be a contender, because you have an 11-year sample size now that suggests, in a 9-year sample size when the Saints signed him, to suggest that's not what he is. He is Andy Dalton, man. Their statistics are almost identical to each other. The franchise that drafted them let them walk. And what's happened to Andy Dalton since? He's become a journeyman. That's what Derek Carr is. It's nicely packaged however you want to do it, but you're never going to win anything of significance. So you have to ask yourself, this is where you have to start, Jim. Like, do you want to be okay, or do you want to win a Super Bowl? And if you want to win a Super Bowl, that will never happen with Derek Carr, period. So you got to think bigger and take some big swings. And that means taking guys at the top of the draft.
What would you do right now if you were the Saints?
I tell them to have surgery, never play again. You go sign Teddy Bridgewater, so you have a veteran on the team. And then at some point, Shough and Rattler continue to battle it out. One of those guys ultimately could be your number 2. And at some point during the season, they're going to end up starting in place of Bridgewater because you're going to be bad. And you give them the opportunity. And then you make a decision after 2025. Are we moving forward with either Shough or Rattler, or are we going into the 2026 draft with all chips in to go to the top of that draft to select a quarterback?
And
that's what I'm doing.
And you just go into 2026 and eat $70 million of dead cap space.
Yes, because you have no. It's actually $59 million, but you have no other option because of, Jim, the awful decision that Mickey Loomis made to restructure Derek Carr twice, which I criticized both times they did it and criticized the day they signed him. The one reprieve is that as you continue to purge some of your old man contracts off of this roster and the salary cap continues to rise, you're going to alleviate some of that. It's not going to be good, but like, Jim, this is the problem when you spend years buying on credit. Like, this is the same principles.
I don't disagree with that at all.
The same principles that you and I agree to and like understand in life apply in business. Like, if all you do is keep buying on credit cards and you max them out, and instead of stop spending, you keep going and signing up for new credit cards, you just keep swimming in debt. Eventually, you got to realize, you know what? We're probably going to have to eat ramen and not take any family vacations for a few years. I sound like Dave Ramsey now.
I was going to say, Matt, don't call me Dave Ramsey Moscona.
Like, bro, that's what it is, man. Like, they've got to realize the only way out of this is you are going to suck. You got to get rid of your old expensive players, get younger, less expensive, find a quarterback, and you're going to suck in the midst of that. And it's probably going to take a couple of years. But if you hit in the draft, like the Bengals did with Burrow, like the Bills did with Josh Allen, like, there is a way out of it. But that's the only way out of it, because you're not going to go find Drew Brees in free agency. The Saints tried to do that for 40 years, Jim. We went through Jim Everett.
And we went through
we went through the whole Heath Schuler, list them for me, J.T. O'Sullivan. They drafted him. The Billy Joes, Jeff Blake, Aaron Brooks. You did it for 40 years, man. You hit once. Draft a freaking quarterback. Do what successful teams do.
They drafted one. You don't think this one is it?
No, I don't think this is it. But he might be. But you never know until you're willing to take the swing. Like, you can never participate in the upside unless you're willing to take the risk of the investment. So you can sit by passively and be whatever version of mediocre you want to be forever, or you can go take your swing and try to win. Man, it's only going to happen if you do it in the draft repeatedly.
It's interesting, and it just goes to show like what the general public thinks, because I'm not showing the comments because some of them are or whatever. There is such a vast difference of opinion throughout just the Dattitude family. I can only imagine. What do you get on your show? Do you show them all? When people are just kind of silly? I mean, do you show those too? I mean, what do you show?
Well, like on Morning Scone, I'll read every comment as long as they're not vulgar.
You do read everyone. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I meant to ask you that.
As long as I have time to get to it all. But like on AFR in the afternoon, no, I don't show the comments on that because it's just a different product, right? I mean, it's radio and it's YouTube. It's all the different sort of stuff. Same with Locked On. But on Morning Scone, yeah, I mean, I'll read through people's comments as long as they're respectful.
It's just so. I mean, we see there's such and I think the majority of people feel about Derek Carr the way you feel right now. Everything you've expressed, I think, represents the vast majority. Now, a lot of those people don't come to my show because I've taken up for Derek. Well, they think I've taken up. I'm just trying to tell you what I think common sense tells you. Right. And I don't think that they're going to do what you're talking about. I think Derek Carr is going to be here next year, this coming year. I think there's actually a chance that they find ways to mend fences. And if this team is decent, I think there's a potential that they rework it again. Whether that happens or not, I want to talk about Tyler Shough because whether he is the quarterback of the future or whether he's not the quarterback of the future, my problem was, even though I'm not a Tyler Shough fan and that's not the quarterback that if the Saints were going to go get one that I wish they would have gotten.
Who did you want, by the way?
Well, I honestly, I don't like any of them, but if I was going to go get one, I just think that Jalen Milroe has a chance to be, and I know you disagree with this, and I'm going to tell you why, Matt. I'm going to tell you really briefly. Here's why. It's not because I think he's going to be the quarterback. Wait, hold on. The reason why I think that would have been a better pick and not at 40, I wouldn't have taken it at 40. I would have taken him in the third round because if he does not work out as a quarterback, if Tyler Shough doesn't work out as a quarterback, you just wasted your 40th pick. If Jalen Milroe doesn't work out as a quarterback, to me, he could be Taysom Hill, maybe even a better Taysom Hill. Again, is that worth the third round pick? I don't know. But to me, you'd be better served to find out. And I think Kellen Moore working with him, Jalen Hurts went from a 60% passer at at Alabama to a 70% passer at Oklahoma and proved that he was pretty decent. So anyway, that's why I would have went there. But that being said, I wouldn't have taken any of them. I wouldn't have taken a quarterback. So go ahead. You can please tell me. I know you don't agree with me.
You don't draft someone because they might be a Taysom Hill. How many
disagree with you.
Jim, how many Taysom Hills are in the league?
One.
Yeah. You don't use a pick because a guy on a quarterback because he might be a gadget player for you. And by the way, Milroe has said he wants to be a quarterback. Tim Tebow could have been an H-back, personal protector, could have done all that stuff as well. Said he wanted to be a quarterback. That's it. Jordan Jefferson, former LSU quarterback, got invited to training camp, I believe, by Tampa as a receiver. He said, no, I'm a quarterback. So he passed. Jalen Milroe said the same thing. So you have to have a want to. He don't want to do it. And he's a terrible quarterback. He'll never be an NFL quarterback. I tend to agree with you on the face. If you don't love anyone in this draft, that's fine. But what if you're not in a position to love anyone in next year's draft that you're in a position to take? Like you have to be willing. You have to be willing to pull the trigger. You have to write the name on the card. Like maybe. Look, nobody thought when Jalen Hurts went in round 2 that he'd be an MVP candidate and a Super Bowl winner. And otherwise, Jim, he would have been a first-round pick.
But see, that's not even my point, though. My point was about Shough. It's not necessarily, like I said before, if that's who they think is best for their organization, then fine. I'm okay with it. Just because I don't like Shough, that's fine. My problem was that you go out and take him at 40 when I don't think anyone will tell you that he wouldn't have still been there at 71. And even if you're like worried, you're kind of worried, package your third-round picks, get something you need more at 40, trade back up into the bottom of the second round, and go get Shough in. I have more of a problem with the fact that they reached at 40. It shows sheer desperation of this team.
I don't know that they reached because I don't know what someone's board looks like. Like that's something you and I aren't privy to, right? What if they had him? What if they had him with a late first-round grade? He's there at 40, and they take him. Like that's one of the things that when you have draft conversations, you never know. And the other part about trading back, Jim, like. First of all, Loomis never does it, but you also have to have a trade partner. Someone has to be willing to come up to take your pick at that position. And New Orleans tried to do it at 9, if you believe the reports from good reporters like Diana Rossini, which I do, that they try to move back at 9, presumably to get Jackson Dart later in the first round, and they try to move up from 40, presumably to do what the Giants did and get Jackson Dart. Well,
I agree with that. They did.
If you can't make a deal, then you don't have then options on the board. So that's the same point I make about 2026. People say, "Oh, tank and then get Arch or get Nussmeier."
They're not going to get Arch.
What if you're not in the position to draft either one of those guys next year? What if you don't have the pick? Say, well, trade up. Well, what if the team that owns that pick isn't willing to trade with you? There were teams that wanted to move up to 1 with the Titans this year to take Cam Ward. The Titans didn't budge. So what do? You deal with what is in front of you.
If the Saints are going to be as bad as everyone expects them to be, I don't think any normal human being is expecting that. I mean, look at Vegas. Vegas expects them to win 5 games next year. So if they're going to win 5 games next year, there are at least 5-6 decent quarterbacks that have a good chance to be NFL quarterbacks next year. In my opinion, I think in most people's opinion, most quote unquote expert. I'm not an expert, but most quote unquote experts believe that. There was only really one this year, and I'm not counting Shough Sanders. I'm saying Cam Ward is really, to me, the only quarterback who has a potential to be a long-term NFL quarterback in this draft. That's why, to me, next year, no matter where you draft, there's going to be one unless the Saints somehow prove to be a winning team and draft in the 20s, which would be a shocker, I think, for everyone.
Look, man, draft is all about mitigating risk. So you can tell me all day about how there's going to be 6 quarterbacks in next year's draft, and there was none in this year. The bottom line is Russell Wilson was a 3rd-round pick.
That's true.
Dak Prescott was a 4th-round pick. Kirk Cousins was a 5th-round pick. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Brock Purdy was a 7th-round pick. They're out there. The odds are, Jim, like just the percentages when you look at the numbers of like I went back and looked at every 2nd-round pick at quarterback back to 2013. Like Jalen Hurts and Derek Carr are like the only starters. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of Christian Hackenberg and Deshaun Kaiser mixed in there. So the odds are it's not going to be great for Tyler Shough. Like that, the odds are against it. but he could be great. And you don't know that unless you do your due diligence, you're convicted on the player, you write his name on the card, you select him, you bring him in, and you see how he can function within your organization.
But you just told me you don't draft there. You don't draft the could be there. I mean, that's what's different. Again, I don't like.
Wait.
I'm not saying
No,
when I was talking about Milroe, when you talked about Milroe, we were talking about Milroe.
I'm convicted that Jalen Milroe is a never gonna be. I think Jalen Milroe is an atrocious quarterback. He is an elite athlete with a really strong arm. He is an atrocious quarterback who will never be a consistent starter in the NFL. I would not have drafted Jalen Milroe with any of my draft picks. Period. I would rather Fadil Diggs in round 7, who might become a special teamer and rotational end for me, than Jalen Milroe, who I know is going to be on the proverbial trash heap in 2 years.
Fair enough. I know I said we'd have you on 20 minutes. We're here 26 minutes later, still talking about. I didn't expect us to be talking about this. One more quick question, because I do have to ask you about what you think about the LSU portal. But what pick did you like most in this draft for the Saints, and what pick did you like least?
Okay, not necessarily that there's a pick I liked least. I don't like that they didn't draft a receiver.
Me too.
That's astonishing.
I would feel the same way.
All of your receivers are 5'10", 6 foot.
Yep.
Like, go get
100%
a
agree.
Big physical presence on the outside that can create some mismatches for you. So that I don't know that it's necessarily a player. Like, Jim, I don't know anything about the safety from Virginia. I don't know a thing about him. I mean, I didn't spend my Saturdays watching Kansas football. I know Devin Neal was a really good running back there, but I can't give you a breakdown on him. I like that they took a running back with a pretty big upside. I don't like that his athletic numbers, his 40 time isn't very good, but you rush for 1,000 yards in 3 consecutive seasons. I like that a lot. Dude has a knack for the end zone, all-time leading touchdown rusher at Kansas. So there's things I like about him. The pick I like the most, I like that they took a quarterback, but you will never be sad or upset or regret going with a dominant offensive lineman.
I agree.
You take Kelvin Banks, Jim. It's like buying a roof on your home, man. It's not a fun purchase. Nobody dreams of, like, no one shows off their new roof to their friends. Like, you want to go on a fancy vacation and buy a car, but if you don't have a roof on your house, you're screwed. And you can live without the fancy vacation.
Isn't roofing one of your big sponsors? I
wasn't even going to say it. Not a sponsor.
Okay.
I'm a partner. I'm a part owner, an equity owner of a Parish. Well, thank you, Parish Construction and Roofing. So yes, parishbuilt.com, and we do work in New Orleans, and we have a New Orleans office. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. But and that's top of mind, obviously, because I work in that industry. But it's true. Like, you'll never regret having a dominant offensive lineman. And so you figure out what you're going to do with Kelvin Banks. Maybe he's your left tackle this year, and you move Fuanga to right. Maybe he's your right tackle. You move Penning to left guard. Maybe he's your left. I don't know where. What I know is he's going to be one of your best 5, and he's going to start 17 games this year if he's healthy.
No question. I couldn't agree. I'm 100%. If there was 101%,
yeah.
We're 100% on with that. That is, I think Kelvin Banks, and the fact that he's a team captain and he started 42 of the 43 games he played at Texas. He was injured for just that last game. He allowed 1 sack last year. I think Kelvin Banks is the perfect pick for this team. And I thought Fuaga, for where they were drafting, was the perfect pick last year. So to me, they got 2 number 1s right in a row. We'll see if we're right. I guess time will tell whether we are or not. But I agree with you. And people don't. It's not sexy, and people want to see sexy. But I just thought what they did there was fantastic. So
I don't know, man. A big old dude running a sub 540. I think that's sexy, Jim.
You know what? As a big dude, I can't disagree with you on that. All right. I wanted to spend a little bit more time, but we're running late. But I definitely want to get your thoughts on LSU. SI says they're number 1 in the portal so far. 8 additions on offense, 8 additions on defense. I know you talk about these guys a lot. Just where do you think? Do you really think that LSU has had done the best job in the portal so far? And there's no question that they needed to be great.
Yeah, I mean, it's LSU or Texas Tech, and it's just a matter of who's spending the most money, and LSU did. So They are in the same situation where Ohio State and Ole Miss were last year. They are all chips to the middle. They went and bought the best portal class you could buy to fortify the best roster possible. So this should be a playoff team. I'm not, Jim, to be clear, man, I'm not saying they're going to be undefeated. Remember, Ohio State lost 2 games.
Right.
That Ohio State national championship team, they lost at Oregon.
You don't need to be perfect anymore.
Bingo. So you got to get to 10-2, get in the playoff. Hope you get a good draw. Look, Oregon was undefeated, got a terrible draw. They had to face Ohio State in a rematch in the Rose Bowl.
Absolutely.
Sucks that it happened that way. But you got to be at minimum 10-2, get in the playoffs. I mean, you look at Ole Miss last year, Jim. They lost 3 games. Kentucky's only conference win came at Ole Miss. They lost to LSU in a game where they never trailed until the final score. And they lost a game at Florida where they had 3 possessions inside the 20 where 3 times Lane passed on a field goal to go forward on 4th down. All 3 times got stopped. Kick any of those field goals, they win. They're 10-2. Minimum, they're in the playoffs. Like that, Lane Kiffin cost them a
absolutely
shot at the playoff. But my point is that's LSU this year. Your roster is loaded, both sides of the ball at every level. You got the veteran quarterback. You're uber talented everywhere. It's the SEC. It's hard, but you should absolutely be in the playoff.
Should be in the playoff. I agree with you. But before I ask you about Brian Kelly, just tell me who are your 2 favorite additions from the portal so far.
I'm trying to think. I'll give you one on each side of the ball. I think Bauer Sharp at tight end is such a must because of how much LSU features the tight end, and he was really impressive, man. Kid from Oklahoma. By the way, started his career at Southeastern Louisiana as a quarterback.
I didn't know that. I did not know
that. He's from Maryland, went to Southeastern, then this year played at Oklahoma. Now he's coming to LSU. And then defensively, boy, it's hard to go anywhere other than those defensive ends. But I'll tell you, man, the biggest surprise is Mansour Delane, the Virginia Tech cornerback. It's very, Jim, like if you have 2 eyes and you've ever watched football, you can go out there and go, oh, well, that's different. Like he's the best guy they got. Like he will be a starting cornerback against Clemson week 1.
Lord knows that the Tigers need that. I mean, they got a little bit better last year, but man, they certainly can use that. We're going there. Last question for you, Matt. Is it playoffs or bust for Brian Kelly if he doesn't make the playoffs? Is he gone?
No, because he's 90% of his contract is guaranteed. If they were to fire him after this season, Jim, they'd owe him still $50+ million, and LSU doesn't have the means to stroke that check. So the day they hired him and gave him this contract, Jim, I said it, for better or for worse, LSU and Brian Kelly are financially bound to each other for a decade. So they're all in to do it this year, and they got to do it because, man, you're going to lose a ton off of this team in 2026. But no, he's not getting fired. And
I think that I agree with you. I don't think he's getting fired either. But you got to think that Brian Kelly is putting pressure on himself. He knows that regardless of whether he's going to get fired or not, you want to talk about Derek Carr getting booed in the Dome? I mean, Brian Kelly's going to get booed in Tiger Stadium if he can't get this team to a playoff this year.
Brian Kelly came here for one reason.
Yep.
He's done everything in a career you can do. He's the winningest active coach in football. He's been to the playoff. He's been to the BCS championship game. He's won conference titles. He's been at 4 different schools. Like, he's done everything except win the last one, win the national championship. So, like, that's why while so many older coaches are getting out in this era, he's plugging on because he hasn't climbed the mountain yet, man. Yeah. And this is his opportunity to do it this year.
Look, and Nick Saban didn't have to get into this NIL stuff. Didn't have to. He got this portal is not what he wanted. He's the GOAT. He could get out. He did get out. He doesn't have to. But I agree with you. I think Brian Kelly says, you know what? And it's just like me when they presented me with social media and said, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I'm like, that's stupid. I'm an old school sports writer. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And realize, oh, wait, I'm not going to have a job if I don't do this, this, and this. And you're like, you can teach an old dog new tricks. So I kind of think that's what Brian Kelly is. I'm glad to see him embracing it. I still am a fan. I hope he can figure it out because I think he can be here for another 10 years if he wants to be, if he can figure this out and get the Tigers to the next level again.
And now you're stuck talking to me in little boxes.
I enjoyed it, Matt. I mean, look, if I wanted people who just agreed with me, I probably wouldn't have a lot of guests. And B, I wouldn't show half the comments. I would show like just oh yeah, he's good. I like him. I'll show this. we gotta have disagreements, or else we're not going to go anywhere. So that's just my opinion.
But Jim, just before I go, just because I care about you, you can't go out there telling people that you think Jalen Milroe is a good quarterback. I mean, if you do that, you're just going to lose all credibility. I
thought he was a good quarterback.
You're just going to lose all credibility.
I said if they were going to draft the quarterback, if that's who I would have gone after because of. But anyway,
Jalen Milroe.
I don't know. I did say when I said Jalen Milroe, I did get to see the top of your bald head. I'll just say that. So that's not something we all get to do every day. See the top of Matt Moscona's bald head. We'll talk to you soon, Matt. Morning Scone every single morning on YouTube and his Facebook page for 7.5 years. And I bet just because he can't help it, probably 20 more, maybe.
I don't know, man. I feel like it's gonna be like Forrest Gump, dude. That day he stopped in the desert, he's like, I'm pretty tired. I think I'll go home now. Like that. There's just gonna be one day where I'm like,
just don't feel like doing it.
Yeah, I don't feel like doing it. There's no plan. I'll just keep going.
Call him Dave Ramsey. Call him Dave Ramsey. Call him Cal Ripken. Call him whatever you want. Just don't call him late for dinner. Matt Moscona, we will talk to you soon. Thank you, sir.
Man. My pleasure. See ya.
Oh my goodness, I clicked on the wrong button. That was a great discussion. That was one of the better discussions we've had on this show in the last little bit. So just goes to show you. I know some of you out there, I was reading the comments until about the last 12, 13 minutes. I know some of you were eating it up. They were saying what you wanted to hear. Just goes to show. I don't need to have someone on who's going to say what I want to hear. I don't agree with him, a lot of what he said, but we actually agreed on a lot more than I thought we would. I'm going to bring Gabe back on in a second, but to get some reaction, because we have more to talk about here in this morning. I know we're an hour and 37 minutes in, but might be another long one here. I told you, you don't want to go anywhere. You want to see the last word. And give us a like, by the way, if you haven't done so while I'm thinking about it. Give us a like and subscribe to the show. We told you earlier we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family run a privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. I'll never disagree with the folks at Evangeline, because after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks over there will begin an extensive auction process from established private equity funds from around the world. There are little offices on Poydras Street and in Lafayette, and they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. Very few companies like them in this area. None, nada, with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They are ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It's not what I think about Derek Carr. It's not what you think about Derek Carr. It's not what Matt Moscona thinks about Derek Carr. And it's not what Gabe Henderson thinks about Derek Carr. What is the most important thing? The rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, Gabe, go ahead. We're going to get into some of these comments before I get to the last word here. Man, we got the Milroe brigade was out, man. That sparked up a storm.
Well,
he asked me. I wasn't going to bring it up, but he asked me. Yeah. I had to say it, and whatever.
So I've had some thoughts on in the Milroe topic, kind of bridges us from this conversation to that conversation. I've had some thoughts on the Taysom Hill comparisons and just Taysom Hill in general recently that I just, for one reason or another, haven't gotten to share.
You don't like Taysom Hill.
No, I have nothing bad to say about Taysom Hill. Nothing bad at all. However,
you don't like Taysom Hill.
No. Like I said,
you think Taysom Hill is overrated?
No.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
No. But here's the thing. Taysom Hill is a unicorn.
True.
Everyone in this, no one, I haven't seen anyone in the comments today saying this, but I've seen it in the past. In hell, you said it a few minutes ago, and Matt rolled his eyes, and I completely agree with Matt here.
He got mad when I rolled mine.
Everyone always says, oh, so-and-so could be the next Taysom Hill. And he asked the question, how many Taysom Hills are there in the NFL?
Well, I mean, how many Joe Burrows are there in the league?
No. But there's one. They're not the same thing, because Joe Burrow is just a fantastic quarterback. Taysom Hill is this Swiss Army knife player.
Yeah, but everyone is their different player. How many CJ Strouds are there in this league? One. How many? Whatever.
That's different. That's different. Those are just
how many George Kittles are there in this league?
Great tight ends. There's a bunch.
It's not a bunch. George Kittle does things that our other players don't necessarily do. I mean, George Kittle is probably a little bit like Mark. I mean, you compare him to like a Mark Andrews, but like to me, each player at a position like brings different things.
I agree, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking stylistically. Taysom Hill is your Swiss Army knife. He's lined up at what, 5 different positions with the Saints?
Yeah.
Quarterback, receiver, tight end, fullback, halfback. 5 different positions, right? Nick, personality-wise, UBN, I agree.
Yeah, there's no other George Kittle. That's
no personality-wise. But the thing is, with Taysom Hill, there's one of him. There's one player. You do have players, I agree, like Deebo Samuel, who can line up in the backfield as a receiver. You have those guys. But Taysom Hill is a jack of all trades and a master of none. That's not to say Taysom Hill is not a good player. Taysom Hill is a very good player.
Where would you rank that? Well, let me ask you though. Okay, so you don't necessarily agree with me that that's what Jalen Milroe could be. We don't even know if he would be willing to do that. I think he probably would if he realizes he's not going to be a quarterback. Whatever. Well, let's put all that aside. Whether he would or wouldn't, let's put it aside. Okay. The question is, where would you rank someone who's like a Jalen Milroe if he says, okay, I am willing to do this. I'm willing to be a jack of all trades if that's what it came down to, and I couldn't be a quarterback. Where does Taysom Hill, like, let's say Taysom Hill from 5 years ago was going in the draft and you knew who he was and that's who he was going to be. Where does that, you can't even process that in the draft because no one ever.
He's a mid to late round pick.
Mid to late round. You mean like 5th, 6th round?
Yeah, 4th, 5th, 6th. The thing is, I'm not even going to address that last comment.
I'll address it later. Go ahead, because we got to move on. We're getting late.
So the thing with Taysom Hill, he's a gimmicky player. That's not meant to diminish his role. He's fantastic at what he does. But there is a reason that not every team has a Taysom Hill. I'm just tired of hearing.
I don't disagree with that at all.
I'm tired of hearing the phrase, the next Taysom Hill, because the reality of the situation, Sean Payton and Dennis Allen ran their offense how they wanted. I get it. They have their own unique style. But 99% of the NFL has no use for a gimmicky player. So that's just my point. We're all focused on the next Taysom Hill, but it's an archaic.
I don't know. I think that the Eagles have their own Taysom Hill, and Kellen Moore used him. The only thing is their Taysom Hill was actually the quarterback. I think Hurts is kind of a Taysom Hill.
He's not. He doesn't line up at 5 different positions. He's a mobile quarterback.
And it's only because he played quarterback. I think a lot of people would have liked to see what Taysom Hill would have done if he had a real. I don't. I'm just saying what a lot of people.
Here's my thing. How many players do you see? People did it with Lamar Jackson. They said, he should be a receiver. How many players do you actually see convert positions, make it a while?
But see, I think what you're missing the point of what I said. What you're missing the point of what I said is, I'm
not basing all my comments based on what you said.
Okay,
let's just clarify that. I'm basing it on people consistently talking about, quote, the next Taysom Hill.
Yeah, and I don't. Okay, I hear you. But here was my point on Milroe. Okay, my point on Milroe was, if I was going to draft a quarterback, and let's be clear, I wouldn't have drafted a single quarterback. I would not have spent one single pick, not 5th round, not 3rd round, not 2nd round, not 7th round, not a single pick on quarterback for this team. And that's even if I was 100% certain that Carr wasn't come back. I still wouldn't have done it because without Carr, this team is going to be absolute crap next year. Okay, that's my opinion. Right. So that being said, if you said, though, this team is going to draft a quarterback and you get to pick which one and where, I said I would have done it 3rd round with Milroe. And the reason being because first, I would try him as quarterback. I would say, let's see if you can be a quarterback because this team's going to suck anyway. And I probably would have said, if Carr's not coming back, you get the whole year. We're going to find out if Jalen Milroe can be a quarterback or not. I personally would have liked to have seen that. And then after that year is over, if you stink, you can go into the next draft a quote-unquote real quarterback, and find a way to use Jalen Milroe. And at the same time, if Carr does come back, you can still find ways to use Jalen Milroe. If Carr comes back, Shough's going to be sitting on the bench. Okay? It's just That is what it is. You're not going to find ways to use them. So that's why I was saying that's why I wanted Milroe. It's not necessarily because I thought Milroe was going to be the quarterback of the future. I thought he could be. Yeah. And then I got pushback from Matt, who did kind of contradict what he said when he said Shough could be, and then I said, well, you said Milroe could be, and I wasn't going to get into it, but he kind of contradicted himself there. So anyway,
no, I get what he was saying. But here's my thoughts on Milroe real quick. I think Milroe, it's kind of like a Mahomes.
I am going to get back to the comments, by the way.
Lesser extent.
Real quick, I know there are lots of comments. I'm about to get into them before we move on. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Mahomes, part of the reason that he's such a good quarterback is because unlike other rookies, he wasn't just thrust into the starting role. He had a year to sit behind a very good quarterback in Alex Smith under one of the greatest coaches of all time in Andy Reid. I'm not calling Mike McDonald one of the greatest coaches of all time. I'm not going to sit here and say Sam Darnold.
He's not even an offensive coach. Mike McDonald's not.
No, he's not. But he's a great defensive coach. But that's the point for a different day. Anyway, I think one of the reasons I really like Seattle drafting Milroe is because he has that time to sit and develop. This next year will kind of be like his Oklahoma year as you compare.
Yeah, maybe so.
Jalen Hurts. I don't know if Jalen Milroe can be an NFL quarterback. None of us know. Let's be honest. Matt is confident as he doesn't know. Matt is more likely going to be right, but that doesn't mean he's 100% certain. I like where Jalen Milroe went. I don't think the Saints would have been for him, especially not if they were going to play him in a Taysom Hill role, because there's only one Taysom Hill. He's good at what he does. He's a gimmicky player. Saints fans, please, for the love of all things holy, move on.
Ain't gonna happen. They love him. They love him. Ain't gonna happen.
They can love him. That's fine. You can love Taysom Hill all you want. He deserves all of the praise that he gets because he has turned a unique situation into a career. He's made life-changing money. Taysom Hill, like I said, is good at what he does. Awesome player, awesome guy. There's not going to be another one of him. There's just not.
I think there's a better chance of being another Taysom Hill than another Drew Brees. No.
I don't know. There's obviously no way to calculate this, but you would have to sit down and calculate whether there have been more players in NFL history who've changed positions at a high level than there have been swings and misses on quarterbacks. It's
all right. Well, we got
Charles. I never said you were moving on.
All right, hold on. We got about 12 minutes left in the show because I do want to cut this off before we get to 2 hours. But
yeah,
this won't be the last time we have this discussion. I promise you.
No, it won't be. Just to clarify, I'm not saying Taysom Hill is bad. I'm not saying the Saints are moving on from him. I'm just saying, please stop the next Taysom Hill quotes. Please stop.
I will talk to you on Monday, maybe about this. Who knows?
Sounds good.
See you Monday.
Yep.
All right. Going back to the comment stream for about another 7 to 8 minutes before I get to the last word. You got 7 to 8 minutes to get comments in. I got a few things here that I'm going back in time. Let's see, how far am I going to go back to? You know what? Just because I don't think I've ever shown a comment from this person, Jeffrey Williams. This is way back. I don't even know if Jeffrey's still here. This is from a half an hour ago. The team will eventually have to draft a franchise quarterback. New Orleans is not a free agent destination, so those players, that's not true. That's not true. This isn't like baseball where they go play for the Yankees. There is no such thing as a free agent destination. There's no Pittsburgh Pirates and New York Yankees in football. They all had the same amount of money. Because let's be honest. 80% of the free agency, maybe, and I might be shortening it, 80% of free agents out there, they don't care who they play for. They want money. And whoever shows them the most, that's where they're going. Not all of them. That's why I said 80%. I think if somebody told me it's a little higher or a little lower, I would say it's a little higher. Maybe it's 85%. But a vast majority of players, whoever shows them the most money, that's where they're going. Who that daddy was loving him, some of that. I know you were loving it because Matt was taking your side the whole time. Saying, Greg, here's another one. It's not new money. They convert base salary. You don't hear what I'm saying. He gets his base salary early. He does not get his base salary early. That's why they call it salary. He gets his salary spread out through time. The money that he gets is what they convert into a signing bonus. Okay, so if they say, we're going to move some of this dead cap money to the future, they give you this large chunk of money, whatever it is. I could probably go find how much they gave him already. But his contract, which is $20 million, that's how much money he's making in his salary this year. He does not get $20 million. $20 million is spread out over the course of however you would normally get your paycheck. That's what his salary is. But he did they convert money into a signing bonus. I don't know how else to say this. You people don't know what the hell you're talking about, okay? If they convert, they still have to pay him a large chunk of whatever the salary is next year, okay, to convert that and to stop. Now, the Saints are still going to have to spend a huge money in dead cap space no matter what they do. So that's why I don't think they're going to do a major restructure again on Carr, no matter what happens. However, if they want to change this $59 million or whatever the hell it is next year, I don't know the exact number, they would have to change whatever they're going to pay him in a salary. They would have to convert this into a signing bonus next year and give him a chunk of it, big chunk then. So, yes, they would have to give him, and more likely than anything, if he's not going to take a pay cut, which I already said he's not going to take a pay cut, a lot of times, these players get more money by doing it this way. You're wrong. I'm not just making this up, okay? You keep saying whatever you want. You're wrong. Katie Brown, Jim thinks of everything in a vacuum as if we aren't dealing with real people here. Huh? Okay. Big Sean, they expected us to win 5 games in 2006 too. I don't think that's true. Big Sean. Now, I'm not saying they didn't expect us to go there. No one expected us to go to the NFC Championship game. But I don't think they thought that we're going to be that bad. I'm not 100% sure on that. Where are we at here? There was a couple things I wanted to show from, man, I didn't realize it's been that long since I showed comments. I'm going way back here. My friend Joe Bowie's here. What's popping? What's popping was the debate. And I saw you commented on some of these things going on here. What else we got here before I move on? Again, you got about 4 minutes. Hello, Bo. Bo Foreman's here. Praise YJ doesn't like Shough. Drafting Shough over Shedeur will set us back 12 years. You cray. I'm not a fan of Shough, but neither one of those dudes, I think, are going to be starting quarterback. If y'all are so right, those Shedeur lovers out there, let me ask you a question. Y'all are so right about Shedeur Sanders, then what's the real reason? Don't give me the stupid lines. I'm not going for the stupid lines. There's a reason why Shedeur Sanders didn't go to the 5th round. And it ain't just because his dad is Deion Sanders, and it's not a collusion. He's a statue. He's a friggin' statue. And if you don't think he's not a statue, go look at his college stats at Colorado. I'm not saying he's better or worse than Shough. He might be better than Shough. You know what? There's a better chance we're going to learn about Shough because he's probably, if Carr doesn't come in here and play, Shuck's going to start. I'm telling you. Is Shedeur going to? I don't think Shedeur's, I got to be honest. I mean, where he was drafted and what's going on in Cleveland, unless people just get hurt, I mean, he'll play in the preseason. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to play in the NFL. And I'm talking about where you get drafted at that spot. I mean, let's get real. Spencer Rattler only played a lot because Carr got hurt. With Spencer, if Carr starts 17 games, do we even talk about Rattler? We don't know anything about Spencer Rattler because he doesn't play. All right. I wanted to show this. JC, I love you. Thank you for being a Dattitude regular, but come on, man. Taysom Hill is better NFL player than Eli Manning. Yes, I said that. 2 lucky passes. Come on, man. You don't realize there are some people that hate the Mannings out there. One of my longtime friends I've been friends with he was best man in both my weddings. Yes, there were 2 of them. He's best man in both. Hates the Mannings. I don't get it. And for anyone who actually believes that, it's like people who believe certain things about Derek Carr. If you believe that Taysom Hill is a better NFL player than Eli Manning, it can only be one thing. You absolutely hate Eli Manning, which means you probably just hate the Mannings in general. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Barry wants to know, will Saints fans ever know when the Saints found out about Carr's shoulder issue? No, not unless Carr's telling you since the beginning. So there's your answer. If you believe Derek Carr, then yes, you'll know. The answer was they've always known. He's been telling them. If you don't believe Carr or aren't listening to Carr, then you'll never know because the Saints aren't going to tell you anything because they're either going to lie about it or more likely not even tell you anything. I don't believe anything they're telling me anymore. I got to be honest. That's where I'm at right now. I'm just not believing. They're not telling me anything of importance. There were at least 3 or 4 times throughout that Mickey Loomis press conference the other day where he started to tell you the truth and then realized, I'm about to tell him something that I said I wasn't going to tell him, and just stopped. And wait, and stumbled over his words. Pisses me off, actually. Sean Hurst. Do I think the Saints drafting the quarterback in the second round versus the first round took pressure off them from possibly having to start him right away? No. I don't. You don't draft a quarterback that high up with his first round or second round. I'll say what I said in the beginning of the show, and you probably weren't here. A lot of you weren't here when I said this. I'll say it again. Those of you, and this is why I don't get social media, even all the ones, none of them think Carr's coming back, okay? Regardless, forget all that. Oh, let's just say for a minute Carr's not coming back. I think it's better than 50-50. I think it's like 65. This is where I am. I think there's a 60 to 70% chance that Derek Carr is the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints on September the 7th, 2025. Okay. That being said, on the 30 to 40% chance that he's not, I'd take of that 30 to 40 and say 25 to 35% chance that Tyler Shough is the starting quarterback for the Saints on September the 7th, 2025, and 5% chance that Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback for the Saints. What is the reasoning? Because this Spencer Rattler was a guy that was drafted in the 5th round by the former coach, okay? That's not Kellen Moore's guy. Kellen Moore is not coming into this situation and saying, ooh, man, if Derek Carr doesn't play, they got a guy who went 0-6 last year, but he's got a lot of moxie. I want to see what he can do. No. Kellen Moore doesn't want to see what Spencer Rattler can do. He wants to win games. And I promise you, he's going to think he can win games with Shough over Rattler. Whether it's the right decision, I'm not saying that. That's a different question for a different day. We only got a few minutes left. But I can tell you that's what's going to happen. Going to start Spencer Rattler. It's just not going to happen. Sean Hurst agrees with Matt Moscona. Without Carr, bring back Teddy Bridgewater. It's not that easy. First of all, Teddy Bridgewater is coaching high school football. I don't even know if he wants to come back and play a full season. Earl's picks. All 32 teams want to Taysom Hill. I agree with that, Earl. They don't all want Taysom Hill, but they all want a Taysom Hill. Gabe, you can shake your head till your cows come home. He's a unicorn. I agree that there aren't 32 Taysom Hills. They don't know how to find them. They just don't know how to find them. Mont Dog says, who cares? Cut him. I'm not going to cut him. I'm not going to cut him. They gave him $20 million in a signing bonus. I understand this. He's also gets $20 million in his annual contract. He got $20 million. He's getting $20 million more. What do y'all not get? I just don't know what y'all don't get. All right. I got to get to the last word. We've been on long enough. Nola says, I think Carr will be traded to shut down. I disagree. He's not going to be traded. First of all, he's not going to be traded. Stop saying he's going to get traded. You want to talk about something that doesn't make sense. No one's going to trade for Derek Carr. And besides that, even if someone would give you a 6th or 7th round pick for Derek Carr, You're not going to trade for a 6th or 7th round pick when you're going to have to eat all this dead cap space, because they're certainly not going to take his cap hit, any of his cap hit. So forget all that. That ain't happening. He's not getting traded. The only chance he gets traded, and I mean the only chance he gets traded, is if he comes back, he plays, and then right before the deadline, you find someone who's in desperate need of a quarterback, and I'll get back to this comment in a minute. If you find someone who's in desperate need of a quarterback and they're willing to take on a little bit enough, and the Saints say, you know what, okay, we're whatever the trade deadline is, we're 2-5, we're not going anywhere. That ain't going to happen. It's not happening. He's not getting traded. Cut is a possibility. Traded is not. Not getting traded. Okay, the other part of the comment. Or shut down. It's only going to get shut down if he wants to get shut down. The Saints won't shut him down. The only way the Saints shut him down is if he basically tells the team, my shoulder hurts and I'm not playing. And my personal doctor says I shouldn't play. I don't think that's happening. Again, the reason being is 34-year-old quarterback is not going to want to waste a year in his career and devalue himself, because another reason going forward is if he says my shoulder hurts, and even if he doesn't get shoulder surgery, even if he says I'm not playing, which he could do, he says, I'm not playing. My shoulder hurts. I don't want to take a chance. I don't want to risk it. I'm not having surgery, but I'm going to come and whatever. And the Saints say, okay, we won't start you. They're not going to shut him down. He would only shut himself down. Mickey's already told you if he's here, he's the starting quarterback. So Carr is the only one. Let's make that clear. Carr is the only one that can shut himself down. Okay? And if he shuts himself down, he's a 34-year-old quarterback who's going to miss his 34-year season and then be exactly what Matt Moscona said. If he's lucky, be a journeyman going forward. He devalues himself instead of coming here and making something of nothing, which it's never going to happen. You can say it's never going to happen, whatever. He can bet on himself and make something happen. And then get his value up, because it's all about him. The rest of it, I think Rattler and Shough will bat it out in training camp. I think Rattler will win the battle, but Shough will start because he's the 2nd round pick. Sigh. I just don't understand the people that are still backing Rattler. How much more do you need to say? If he goes, I'm convinced that the people who love Spencer Rattler, and there are plenty of people out there who do, I'm convinced that the people who love Spencer Rattler, he could start this year, go 3-15 or 3-14, I guess. And y'all would say it's because the rest of the team sucks and he's good. So then that would mean he was 3-20. Y'all would still be saying he's good. It's the Saints' fault. Dude, let it go. Let it go. Andrea Bergeron, or Andrea. My wife is Andrea. Are you Andrea or are you Andrea? I don't know. Our draft is the best we can draft. Andrea believes we can win. Maybe. I'm not having an aneurysm, Chad. It bothers me that any normal person who watches football on a regular basis is still buying into Spencer Rattler. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Big Sean, he conveniently injured so much when he's getting beat that he can tell you if he's really injured or not. You win most ridiculous comment of the day. No, wait, I'm sorry. That's second most ridiculous. What was the one earlier, Gabe? I don't remember. Way earlier in the show when we had our dumbass of the week candidate. It wasn't that bad. You're not that bad, Big Sean. How could you or anyone, and I mean anyone, possibly know what Derek Carr's going through? Now, it's his fault that we don't know what's going through. It's just as much his fault. It's his fault and the Saints' fault that we don't know what he's going through. You don't know what he's going through. He says he's got a shoulder injury. How bad? I mean, I got a cut on my finger. It's not going to keep me from typing later. I don't know how bad. He's got a shoulder injury. Okay. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. We got to get to the last word. Rob, fan guy. Was it Fangy? The Fangy or fan guy? At least we get to training camp before we anoint anything as a chosen one. I'm not anointing anybody anything. Charles, which shoulder? I don't think he ever told us, but I think you got to assume it's his throwing shoulder, right? I mean, we wouldn't be going through this if it wasn't his throwing shoulder. But you're right, we don't know. Last comment of the day. Who dat daddy? We don't necessarily. Fangy, Rob Fangy. Last comment of the day is from my friend Who Dat Daddy. You know, again, it's like I say on the show all the time. We don't have to agree for me to talk to y'all. We could talk back and forth. Great show, he says. Jim and family. Who dat to all? He loves New Orleans. With that, we can certainly agree with. There is no better city on the planet than New Orleans, Louisiana. That's my opinion. I take it back. There is one more last comment because I agree with this wholeheartedly. Lewis Jacobson. I would love to see Carr this year with a healthy O-line and see what he can do, period. Amen. All right, time for the last word. Mark Gapsky's got, Gabe says he wants to share this one. Archie Manning says he loves the Saints pick of Tyler Shough. Means nothing to me. I love Archie Manning. I don't care what he thinks about Tyler Shough. Unless he was on the show, then I would care. But honestly, that doesn't change my opinion. Lots of people say they love Tyler Shough. The Saints obviously love Tyler Shough. All right, the last word goes back. We're going back in time. First, last word, we've done that. It's kind of like the extra point. Same thing. To 10 years ago today, Saints had 2 first-round picks, just like they did in 2022 and was it 2017 with Lattimore and Ramczyk? 2022 was Olave and Penning. Saints had 2 first-round picks in 2015 for the first time since 2002. They chose Stanford guard/tackle Andrus Peat with the 13th pick. Boy, y'all would love it on. If we would have had the show back then, y'all would have been loving on Mickey Loomis back then. And Clemson linebacker, wait for it, Stephon Anthony with the 31st pick. You see, the pick of just before the first pick was right before. I got a picture to show you. In fact, here it is. Right before we made that pick, there was the first ever live show that we did here on NOLA.com. We were doing shows about the Saints, Black and Gold Today, but they were only like 5-6 minutes long. We didn't include anyone in there. We didn't have comment streams. We didn't have whatever. First live show we ever did was this first round. Now, we didn't do another live show until 2023 on the draft, but here was the first one. I was asked to host it. I had never hosted a show before, and here's what I looked like and what the show looked like 10 years ago today. That's scary. You see my partner, Jim Rapier there, who is my color analyst today on Varsity Sports Now, is out of the business. He's teaching, the teacher at Bonneville. But we spent 5 hours on the set at One Canal Place on the 32nd, 33rd floor, whatever it was. Back up there on One Canal Place in a newsroom. That was a lot of fun. And you see Dunk there on the right with Rachel Whitaker, who I'm not sure what Rachel's doing these days. I know she got out of the business shortly after that. Very shortly after that. That's September, I believe. We had another purge. And Duncan, don't look how much younger. I mean, it's crazy how much younger we looked 10 years ago to today. Maybe I should shave the beard off. My wife tells me that all the time. Anyway, on that show, we were shocked by both picks. As bad as they might seem by some. Pete started 102 games for the Saints over 9 seasons. So let me just say that I think the criticism over the years of Andrus Peat was unwarranted. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't when the Saints made the pick there, and we later learned a lot of it had to do with Sean Payton's relationship with David Shaw. To say we were surprised would be an understatement. To say that we were happy would not be true. But I wasn't as adept at giving my opinion then as I would have been on this show. It ended up working out okay. I think when you start 102 games on the offensive line for one team over 9 seasons, I think that means it was a successful pick, no matter where it was picked. Now, Stephon Anthony is another story. He initially looked like he would be a good one. He started all 16 games in his first season of 2015, and he posted a rookie franchise best, still stands, 144 tackles, which surpassed Ricky Jackson's record of 125. So he had 19 more tackles than Ricky Jackson had. That's pretty crazy. The problem was that he was oft injured after that and started only 4 games the rest of his career with just 40 more tackles. Interestingly, he was traded to Miami after his second season and did not have his contract renewed in 2019. He was signed by the Falcons and the Jets, but never played. He never played a single down for either of them. He came back and played for Sean Payton in 2019 for 1 season before being done. So, yeah, Stephon Anthony didn't work out too well. Interesting. Both the picks and how much younger we all looked 10 years ago. How much younger do y'all look? It was also about probably 30 to 40 pounds lighter back then. If I tried to put that shirt on today, which is still in my closet, by the way. If I tried to put that shirt on today, I think a button would pop off and probably break the camera. Interesting. All right. By the way, Rattler has had a fair effing shake. Nola, if you go 0-6, I don't care who you're playing with. You had a fair shake. And another game he played, so he really went 0-7. He got shut out by the Green Bay Packers in prime time. I've seen enough. I don't need to see any more. And guess what? Doesn't matter. We don't make that decision. There's an excellent chance that we won't see any more anyway. Kellen Moore didn't come here to start Spencer Rattler, I promise you. That's the last word. It's going to wrap it up for us on this Wednesday. I want to thank today's guest. Boy, it was a lively one today. Matt Moscona, Gabe Henderson, and you. You are always our guest, whether we agree or disagree. Speaking of agree or disagree, I have no idea what's going to happen on Friday. We will welcome in Jeff Duncan. Dunk will be here again. I don't know whether he's going to be on live or whether we're going to have to record it Friday morning. It depends on Dunk's schedule. I know he's going to Jazz Fest, so we're going to try to get him on live. I just don't know if it's going to happen. May have to record him at 8 in the morning. We'll see. Dunk's going to talk mostly about Saints draft, and of course, we'll get his thoughts on what's going to happen in the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. Duncan is a huge horse racing guy from Kentucky. From the Louisville area, I believe. I think he was born and raised around Louisville. I know he's from Kentucky. We'll be talking about that. Reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And you can also find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. You can find me bet.NOLA.com and the Saints Insiders on NOLA.com/sports/Saints. Feels like summer's here, boys and girls. Get your AC ready. Some of you love this, Uncle Big Nick. Some of you don't. We will see you either way. We will see you. It might be hotter on Friday. Who knows? Might be hotter on this show. We will see you then. Till then, take it easy, boys and girls.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.